Hi guys, I'm Maylin Dovan, certified athletic therapist and founder of Rehab-U Movement and Performance Therapy. And I want to talk to you about our founding vision at Rehab-U that says Rehab is Training. Okay, so there are a couple of things that are important for us at Rehab-U, and those are fundamental movement optimization and strength in the continuum of care. So what do we mean when we talk about fundamental movement optimization? Making the fundamentals better, grounding the fundamentals. A lot of people are building or trying to build strength on a foundation made of sand. Okay, so a lot of people don't have fundamental movement or enough awareness about fundamental movement. So fundamentals, we're talking about appropriate mobility, appropriate stability. Those are fundamentals of movement that we need. Basic function. So when I look at the shoulder complex, when I look at the hip, I regress to what's the most basic function that the lumbopelvic hip complex needs to have. What's the most basic function that the scapula and shoulder complex needs to have, and does the person have that basic function? Because that fundamental basic function is what we then manipulate for exercises. Okay, exercises are different from movement patterns. Okay, so once we establish those fundamentals, mobility, stability, motor control, we've got to build strength on top of that. Okay, so the second important vision for Rehab-U is strength in the continuum of care, all along the continuum of care. Okay, you can have all the mobility and stability that you like, all the motor control, but if you don't have strength, you're just not going to be resilient. Okay, because you're always close to your maximum capacity. Okay, so building strength and making sure you always have strength in the continuum of care from a rehab perspective is of utmost importance. And what happens is, and if you've watched my previous capsules, there's always a gap there between what gets done for rehab in terms of manual therapy, what gets given, if any exercises are given for rehabilitation reasons, and what's required to stay strong. We're always from a rehab perspective, you're always going to be on a spectrum of protect to expose. There's going to be tissues that you need to protect temporarily, but you still need to expose, okay? And we're really good at identifying the tissues that I need to fully protect and the tissues that I need to fully expose, but everything in between is a little bit gray zone, okay? And what's important, and when we talk about strength in the continuum of care, it's about how you modify everything that the individual does so that they can continue to load. Okay, so if there's tissue that needs to be protected, it has decreased tolerance to stress, to load. It's not decreased to zero, so we don't want to fully unload that tissue because we're also unloading surrounding tissues. So we need to find modifications, regressions of exercises that allow us to load that tissue and the surrounding tissues enough that we don't exceed that tissue's capacity, but enough that we're still working on strength. If we underload everything, if we immobilize people, if we completely eliminate certain movements from their regimen of movement, we risk underloading them and increasing that gap back to performance. Okay, so when we say rehab is training, it's really about those two things: fundamental movement optimization and strength in the continuum of care. Strength is everything, as Mark Rippleto says.